Hey folks, welcome back. It's the Big Barn Build, and today it's a lucky treat. We've gone back through our fairly recent archive and got hold of all of the brick footage, and we're going to go through a start to finish, learn as you go, wing it yourself, or should say do it yourself, bricklaying. And we hopefully be able to share all that with you, and I'll tell you some of the pros and cons of doing it ourselves, some of the costs, and also some of the mistakes we made along the way. So stick around and let's make a start. So it seems like a very long time ago since we started out on this project, late summer last year. And the very first thing we did is we decided to make a couple of test panels either side of where the front door will be going, trying out some different mortars. We wanted to try a cement mortar using some white cement, different sands. We wanted to try a couple of lime mortars, lime putty blends, and between about 4 different patches in the end, we decided on which mortar we were going to use. And more importantly, we decided that we definitely wanted to use the lime mortar. There was something about it which was nicer to work with, had a more authentic look to it, and also we felt it was more suitable for DIY bricklaying, which is essentially what this is. And just like that, we're off. We set ourselves up on the rear of the building, so potentially a little bit more of a discreet place to cut our teeth on it. And we're making a start in beginning of September, I think it was. So a good time to be laying brick. Because we're using lime mortar, we need to be aware of the extremes of temperature, not just frost, but also the heat, the dry heat of summer. So September was a good chance for us to make a start on this, and it was quite a good September weather-wise. So that did mean that we needed to be conscious about keeping these walls covered, keeping them out of the wind, because like a dry wind can be just as bad as, you know, a cold frost almost. So between misting the wall down, damp hessian, and just keeping an eye on bits as we went. Now it was a lime putty mortar that we ended up going with. We ordered it from Timor, who are a Welsh supplier, not too far from here, but they deliver nationwide from my knowledge, and they palletize everything. So we had a vehicle of 6 or 7 bulk bags delivered to us, and that was actually more than enough. We used their calculator on the website. Their estimate was, I think we're almost 2 bags over. So that was a bit of a negative, because in hindsight, well, the argument really goes, do you try and order the perfect amount and run low and have to get an extra bag, or do you want a really consistent batch and therefore get more than you need, knowing that everything's going to be consistently mixed, and also you can potentially use that bag elsewhere? And in our case, those bags will store relatively indefinitely, so in the next few months or the next year, we can use that same mortar to repoint some of the older buildings that are adjacent to the barn. The actual mix is called New London. We tried 3 or 4 different blends, and we felt that this one had the right sort of consistency in that it wasn't too coarse, but equally had the sort of pale look that we wanted to tie it in with the adjacent buildings. Now, the one thing I would say that is, if you go for a particularly coarse lime mortar, it's not necessarily going to lend itself to bricks so much as stone. With stone, you normally have a much wider mortar gap, and therefore you might need some larger aggregate in it. This is relatively fine, but it does have some of the black flecks and things like that we definitely wanted in the mortar. So you can see here the daily wrap up. At the end of the day, it's important that we get that hessian up. We're misting it down. This is the west side of the building, but it's also getting that prevailing wind, that dry sort of heat, and it dried out so quick. So we wanted to really slow that down as much as possible, because the slower the better, really, when it comes to mortar, especially lime mortar. Now, we haven't really talked about the bricks yet. Now, we wanted a reclaimed old worldy sort of rustic look, and it's quite hard really to brick match, and there are people who actually make a living from it. So we did our best to get some different panels that they basically send you out slips, a very small selection on a board, but it gives you enough of an idea when you offer it up to nearby buildings to see if that's going to be a good match. And it's just as much about the brick as it is the mortar. Now, one thing we didn't really anticipate is just how much harder it is when you go for a tumbled rustic brick like this. It's quite a lot more work when you're trying to set out. There's quite a bit of variation, maybe 5, even 10 millimeters on some of the bricks in length. And it just makes it a little bit harder when you're trying to get your levels right. Of course, we're going for that older look, so the lime mortar is quite forgiving, and there's no really sharp, straight mortar lines to pick up on the imperfection of the brick size. But it's interesting, a lot of people think that you need the bricks to be really knocked around and old and weathered like this to look like a traditional old building. However, if you actually look at old bricks, even the 100-year-old, 200-year-old, 300-year-old bricks, some of them, or most of them, are actually quite square-edged and smart still. So I think you can overdo it, and potentially these ones were just a little bit too rough. They are a new brick, but they are the sort of patina or whatever they try to add to these bricks by tumbling them or adding different stains and dusting the front of them and things like that. It almost goes one step too far. But now it's all up. We are happy with them. It's just one of those things to bear in mind that you cannot go off photos. You don't know if that photo was taken on a slightly damp day, the light was just overcast, or if it was bright sunshine. The same brick can look radically different in lots of different photos. So the best thing to do is ideally find a building that's already built with that brick, or see them in person. Make up a panel, even if you've got to buy, a selection of the bricks and make up a meter squared. It's still going to be better than a little panel on a bit of MDF. Now, I realise that some of that footage is jumped around a little bit with time-lapse and video footage, but this is the point where we finally got up to sill height. So we're taking our brick to the underside of where our window sills will sit, and if you've seen our recent videos, you'll have seen those in place all ready for our cladding. One thing we didn't mention is what we did lower down in the wall. You can see here we've got our DPC in at the correct height to match inside and 150 above outside. We decided to use the same mortar. I think it's going to be fine. We're going to have a well-drained area around adjacent to the wall. There'll be a gravel area. There'll be a good overhang guttering. However, it does mean that those bricks, bearing in mind they are kind of traditional handmade bricks, they do hold on to the water slightly more, especially at the moment where we don't have the gutters. You can see the splashback. Because you have that DPC, they sit at a slightly darker shade of red. I'm hoping that as we move forward and the guttering's up and the splashing and things like that sorts itself out, that it won't be an issue. However, it's one thing to bear in mind. We could have used a harder modern engineering brick down there, and that would have led us to use a different mortar as well. The brick we actually went for was called Colmere, and we used an imperial size brick. That means it's unintentionally it matches the other buildings nearby. However, it's a little bit more maths because they're 5-10 mil different from a normal metric. That said, these vary so much in size. Even if you went for the metric version of this brick, you'd still probably have to gauge out on an individual basis and just keep an eye on it because they are a bit inconsistent. It's a great chance for everyone to muck in. I think everyone in the family had a go at laying the bricks. The lime mortar is nice to work with because you've got more time. I didn't explain earlier on, but lime putty mortars are typically ordered ready mixed. So they come in a bulk bag, already knocked up, or already mixed, I should say. And therefore, there's no gauging out buckets of sand and lime. And really, it's probably the most forgiving mortar as far as its breathability and how kind it is to softer bricks and stone. It takes that guesswork or unknown sort of level out of what aggregates you're sourcing and things like that. We were happier to go that route because I was all about getting the consistency. It does mean that there's less wastage as well, because although we used a traditional mixer rather than a horizontal mixer like you might do if you were doing lots of lime work, it meant that we didn't have the waste at the end of each day. You could just simply cover the wheelbarrow and that was it. You could come back to it the next day and just give it a quick mix up again. It's amazing the difference between an extra sort of 10-15 minutes in the mixer. Just brings it to life, makes it really pliable. It's hard to explain. I don't have the right words to use like some bricky, time-honoured bricky, but it's just far more pliable and kind of, I don't know, elastic perhaps. So we worked our way around. Now we're at the front of the building. We feel like we've actually worked out the best way of doing things. We've got windows that we need to work around and doors, and it's all about kind of gauging the layout. We made up sticks with our gaps on. We did the same for the courses as well to make sure we ended up on a full brick at window height. That did mean a lot of cutting on our first couple of courses, or first course, because frustratingly our footings were not quite where they should have been, but it meant that we had a nice even finish at the top there, and now we've got onto the cladding. That really helped, because otherwise we would have just ended up with a little skinny bit at the top and it wouldn't have looked right. You can see in some of this footage the use of the brush. The churn brush is kind of like the go-to tool. A few days later we've got to uncover everything and tend it. We've got to knock it back a bit, brush out the loose bits, smooth those joints and make sure it's all nice and compacted. And remember, it's not just a 1-2 day job here. We're keeping an eye on this lime mortar up to kind of 2 or 3 weeks after we've laid it. So while we might be working on one side, we're going back to the other side each day to take a look, maybe mist it down a bit more, keep that Hessian on. There might be a little bit of tooling to do, and really actually every wall behaved differently. Some of them, like this side over here, it took weeks for it to really kind of firm up enough that we didn't need to do any more work to it. We could almost leave it for 2 weeks before we even returned to it. So it's a bit of a trial and error, work as you go and just see how it behaves. The weather's going to be different, the wind, the exposure, and also just a bit more of a damp environment. It's going to take longer. You can see the brick ties behind. They are tying into the stud work of our timber frame. So although we're using really old world traditional materials with the brick and the lime mortar, it's essentially quite a modern construction technique. We are just skinning a timber frame building. So all of our insulation's in that timber frame, and we're just putting an aesthetic skin on the outside. There are other elements like the weep holes and the ventilation that you need behind there. So you want to keep that cavity completely clear. So every course or two that we go through, we're then either hooking up our mortar to make sure it's out of the cavity, or just chipping off little bits to make sure that there's no bridging between the brick and the timber frame, especially because with something like a lime mortar that's able to transfer moisture very easily, the last thing we want is to have sort of a bridge from our brickwork to our timber frame. So that you need to keep on top of that as you're going up through the courses. Now, what was probably around 7 or 8 weeks later, we're finally round to the end of the building, and the barn is becoming a home at last. You can see we've left our 2 panels either side of the front door till last, because they're the hero bits. They're the bits you're definitely going to see on the way in the house, but also where we thought we might be able to do something a bit different. We had some great comments on the videos when we asked about these, what people thought we should do, whether we tried a herringbone or a different bond, but in the end we kept it fairly simple. We decided to carry the bond through as normal, exactly the same as before, but we just set a panel in. So carried the bond through, a little bit of cutting to make that work, but just by setting it back 25mm or so, it just gave it a little something different either side of the front door, which we really like. And there will be planting along the front here, but it made sense to do that. Now, the footage changes here. There's only one person and it's not me. At this point, I'm in a hospital bed feeling very sorry for myself. after my appendix played up. So therefore Tom finished the last little panel there, and it was quite nice. I was completely out of it for a couple of weeks, but it was quite nice to sit there and get a little update video at the end of this day when Tom managed to get this done. So there we go. That is the round tour of the building, and I wouldn't want to do it every day. So hats off to bricklayers around the country and around the world who do this day in, day out, probably with a lot more skill and precision. Now, one thing we haven't talked about is the cost of all this. Bricks for us were just over £1 each for the handmade bricks, and the lime mortar worked out at approximately £12 per square metre. Including delivery and things like that, that takes us to around £80 a square metre. That includes quite a lot of wasted bricks, a lot of money on kind of 2 big deliveries, and that basically brings in our material costs as nothing really apart from brick size. So that was our fixed cost, and we did get some quotes for bricklayers to come and do this work for us. It was almost the same again. We had a quote around 8,000, high 8,000, low 9,000, and a couple of other without visiting sites, which basically indicated it was going to be around £10,000. They were all based on a regular cement mortar as well, so I would hesitate to say that things would have got a little bit more expensive, or a lot more expensive, if they had been needing to deal with the lime mortar and go that route. But even with paying for Tom to be here to help me with it, to any other bits of kit that we needed, we still ended up saving ourselves thousands of pounds, enough to pay for all of our timber cladding and some change. So it was definitely worth doing it ourselves, but it did take us away from other tasks inside. So it has made the project drag out a bit longer, but it's one of those things that hopefully for years to come we'll be able to look at and feel a sense of achievement knowing that we did it, and it's not hidden away in a wall or stud work or something we're never going to see again. It's, you know, the real bricks and mortar of the building, and that's quite satisfying. So there you go. There's no real big reveal at this point because we want to keep things wrapped up a little bit. The temperatures might plummet again and we don't want to risk too much frost damage or anything like that. However, we're working on this end at the moment, getting ready for our cladding, window sills, and working around the doors. So we've taken down this section. It's all looking nice. It's nice to see it again because it's all been wrapped up for the last month. But it won't be long before we can just come in and point up around our oak posts, get things ready, and then we'll be installing a little discreet drip sort of sill on top of here before our cladding. But there we go. I'll leave some links down below to some of the things we use, the products we use, tools we used, and you can make a choice for yourself whether it's something you're going to brave and have a crack at, or whether you're going to get someone with far more skill and knowledge. But working with lime, I would definitely encourage you to have a go with it. It takes a little bit more babysitting afterwards, especially if you're in the extremes of the weather, whether that's heat or cold. But it just is so nice to work with. It gives a certain unique look that we just couldn't recreate with any of the cement mortars that we tried. And I think it's going to just blend in with the rest of the farm. But anyway, you let me know what you think. We'll leave it there. Thanks for watching. Remember, if you can, do it yourself. And we'll see you next time.